Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Manufacturers Round number 5 at Tokyo Expressway East Outer Loop. So we all know about this track, we've driven this quite a few times in the past. It's very much a slipstream track. Everyone was looking for the slipstream in qualifying. Qualifying was a bit chaotic. We eventually got a reasonable slipstream, although it was only for the straight. The rest of the lap was pretty much done without any slipstream at all. And I managed to put it on a reasonable P5. I think if we would have got the slipstream towards the end of the lap, we could have been right towards the front, but we only got it on the main straight. But we did get a massive slipstream. I think we were hitting 180 miles per hour by the end of the straight, but then we had no slipstream after the turn 1, but we still put it on P5, so reasonably happy with qualifying. This was race number 2. Race number 1 was a little bit of a disaster in qualifying. It really got messy. The first race was pretty bad. The second race was quite bad, but it was quite funny as well because no one wanted to be first to start the lap, obviously, because people wanted to get the slipstream. People were waiting behind. Eventually one driver decided to go for it. I think it was in the Golf 3 GT, and I just followed him and thought I'll just take this one slipstream for the straight and then I'll do the rest of the lap in clean air, which probably wasn't a bad thing because then you're not relying on other people to make mistakes. Again, tough lobby, top split as usual, all the way through the grid, very fast drivers. Lightning was suffering with the Subaru. Subaru was so underpowered for this track, and also one thing about the Subaru was the car is just terrible on fuel, so the fuel consumption of the Subaru is just non-existent. You cannot put you can't save any fuel at all, no matter how you drive it. Really, it's just going to chew the fuel up, and then it's really slowed down the straights anyway. So very much so in a big disadvantage in that Subaru for this race. We've got starting at the back of the grid there, the Renault, also not particularly great at this track. But for myself, starting from P5, in a good position. The NSX really good in the slipstream and actually quite good in 6th gear. It was actually faster than the Audi R8 in 6th gear. Once you hit about 160, 64, 62, something like that, it actually started to out-accelerate the Audi, so that was quite a nice surprise. And it meant I was in a good position also for the slipstream because the NSX actually slipstreamed really well, and you're going to see that during this race anyway as we start the race. And I just decided not to worry about putting the fuel mixture down straight away. I think we did it by the end of the straight. If you watch the live stream, obviously you can check this race out. We did 2 manufacturers and we did 3 nations races. So now going into turn 1, we're going to not be too dangerous. On the previous race it got a little bit messy, I think, into turn 1. So I decided just to go to the left hand side, make all aware that I'm not going to just throw it up the inside. I'm going to brake nice and early. We put the mixture into a leaner setting and just go through this corner nice and easy, and then back into the one mixture so that we've got the maximum speed coming out this corner. But as we go through this corner, the Williams driver behind, I don't know if he lag spiked or something, but just rammed right into the rear of my car. It looked like a slight lag spike. The FT1 also caught him by surprise by the looks of it, as his car was nearly going sideways. But that nearly ended my race very early, but got away with it and still in P5 as we can see there. Org, Calster and Rick right out in the front there. We got SVDR in P2 in the B2, I think he was in. So far, no loss of positions. One thing about this race is it doesn't really matter where you start. As long as you're in the top 10, you still have a chance of winning the race if you haven't got the OP car at the front. Like obviously Rick in the OP car there, it looks like he's already broke the slipstream, so he's going to be pretty much gone and probably going to be able to get a reasonably comfortable win at this track if he can just keep it clean, keep the fuel saving and push where he needs to and keep people out of his slipstream as we now go into the final corner. No real opportunity to make a move, so again I'm just going to brake reasonably late, try and hit the apex as we see a little bit of smoke kicking up. It seems to be a replay of that because I don't remember seeing that actually when we was live on the proper gameplay. But we get really close to this TRL Org slipstream there, and we're in a good position again to pick up the slipstream and work our way down the main straight, just trying to make sure that we do a little bit of short shifting. We don't want to over rev the car, we want to save some fuel. There was an actual car that must have disconnected at the start of the race, also just stuck on the grid there, the ghost of his car stuck on the grid. I don't know what's happened there. But as we now go over the start line, start lap 2, you can see the long line of train of cars just all picking up slipstream. There's a little bit of a gap there around P7 and 8 it looks like, but we're getting a nice slipstream before, bump drafting in where possible, and then trying to look to see if we can make up some places at the end of the straight. So we're now going 3 wide into the corner. We're on the outside of Calster. I decided to, again, I'm not going to throw it up the inside there. I'm going to brake nice and early. Org also brakes early, holds that inside line, and I'm up to P4, I think it is there. Calster in P3, and now Org in P5. So playing a little bit of swapsies with the positions and just Coming out the corner there though, Calster hits the wall and gives me a really big run up the outside, and I decided to, rather than bump draft him, to go around the outside and let Org bump draft me, which Org does. I predicted Org would, because Org, very clever driver. So that puts me up to P3, Org up to P4, and we push through this corner, making sure we don't make any mistakes. You don't want to hit a wall there, because it can be so chaotic. If one driver hits a wall there, it's a ricochet effect and everyone suffers. So pressure on myself now. Now the only thing about this strategy that I wanted to get out in the front, really, because there is two ways of doing this. You can do the slipstream way, which is probably the best way to do it. If I'm brutally honest, the slipstream, sitting in someone's slipstream, is much better for your fuel consumption, but it's also risky. At least in the position I'm in now in P2, I've got no one in front of me. It's just about my driving. Org's bump drafting me, which is nice. So I'm just going to short shift it as much as possible. Not really using much in terms of changing the fuel mixture. It's mainly just short shifting at stage in one mixture. But like I say, the advantage of these drivers behind me have got is they can be in mixture 2, 3, 4, 5 and just slipstream all the way down the straight. I've not got any slipstream at this stage, so that is the only downfall of where I am at the moment. But I know that on this straight now, they're going to probably come flying past me, so I'm going to keep short shifting. You see they're changing around 50% on the red bar, just so that we don't over rev the car, and then Org straight past us on the straight, picking up a big slipstream. I'm going to tuck into Org slipstream now, and then try and boost him up this hill. And there's no point me pulling out on this part of the track, because we're not really going to go much faster than him. So it's better for me just to boost him up that hill, give him a nice boost of speed on the torque part of the track. And now we've got Calster coming behind also. Looks like he's just saving the fuel. You can see how he drops back there. So Calster clearly saving fuel. I decided to, again, not going to risk anything here, but I have to go defensive into this one. Then we've got Suicide Man, Indie Food there, who just completely dive bombs the inside as usual. I seen it happening. I luckily saw it early and just left the door open, because I predicted it would happen. You know, I just saw a BMW and I knew what the intentions of BMW was, and it was no surprise that it was Indie Food as he goes past. But luckily, no harm done. The only harm is we've lost quite a bit to Org. You see, we were right on to Org slipstream, and now we've dropped back quite a bit. So that was a little bit frustrating. I obviously wanted to be right in the slipstream at this stage of Org and just able to fuel save. But now I'm going to have to push a little bit to try and stay with Indie Food, who's driving very aggressive, obviously using up some of his fuel. So I'm going to have to stay with him to try and get the time back now to Org. So again, it's just racecraft. I think he's just a little bit too aggressive. If it wasn't for the fact that I saw the car coming up the inside, that would have been a disaster. It would have definitely been contact and would have been a penalty. I mean, he came from 2-3 car lengths back, no consideration for overdrive. He needs to just calm it down on the track, I think. But luckily, no harm done this time, as we now go through to the final corner to start, to end this lap and start another lap, and hopefully pick up the slipstream of Indie Food there in BMW, who seems to be pushing very aggressively at this stage. Obviously using up a lot of fuel, which maybe not be the best way to drive. That BMW does use a lot of fuel anyway, so it's one of them. Do you push? Do you use the fuel? Do you try and save some? It really was quite a tactical race, this one. Fuel involved with it, not really tyre wear. Now, tyre wear, in terms of tyre wear, people were actually, I think a lot of people were going in the pits and not changing their tyres. I was changing my tyres pretty much every go. The first race we changed our tyres, we get a massive bump draft off of the Beetle behind this SVTR, and that boosts me right up into Indie Food slipstream. Now what you're going to see now is the NSX with the slipstream is really strong. Because watch this now, we're in the slipstream, picking up to 179, and it doesn't drop too much speed once it's there. It slowly reduces down to 176, 175, and that puts me back up into the podium position, into P3, behind Org, though unfortunately not close enough to get into Org's slipstream there. So a little bit frustrating. I really wanted to be able to just pick up some slipstream there so I could push myself towards Org and maybe do some fuel saving for a half a lap or so. But at the moment, again, we're in that situation where we're going to have to push really, because if I back off too much, I'm going to get swamped by Indie Food, and that's not really what I want to happen with the dive bombs that you'll probably foresee coming in. So Org in front, myself behind, Indie Food behind there, and then we've got Veloz James in P5 has come through the grid quite a lot as well. Calster in P7 doing just a lot of fuel saving. I was predicting, I knew what they were doing, but it's a risk. If you go into that strategy of running in with other cars, you run the risk of picking up penalties, especially at this track where a little contact from another car pushing you into a wall. There was like 5-second penalties being given out, 10-second penalties being given out in these races. It really was quite chaotic. So really the best way, I felt the safest way to do this race was just keep yourself in clean air, short shift it a bit, save some fuel, but just don't worry about you know, it should come back to you for the second split anyway, because even if they jump you, you're then going to put more fuel in and probably be able to catch them back up as long as you've got the slipstream. As we see there, getting overtaken by infield. I just left the door open there. There's no point in fighting that. It's just best to let him back through and then just pick up their slipstream down the straight as we now head off into the start lap. Well, this is the first stage of the pit stops. Some people will pit here, and now this was actually quite entertaining. Now, as we go into the pits there, Veloz James, slow motion, and bang, straight into the wall, and RIP Veloz James. And to be fair to Indie Food, we did actually watch that on the replay. It was not Indie Food's fault, that one. That was more Veloz James. I think going in the outside there with the wall there was just a really risky move, and I think it was a little bit silly, but he ended up paying the price by going straight into the barrier and pretty much ruin his race now. As we now follow P1 SVDR down the straight, picking up the slipstream again. Maybe I could have boosted him there, it might have been a better option, but again I went out for the lead and for the clean air, and obviously going to use more fuel up. I think it would have made a bit more sense for me there to maybe sit behind him and just short shift it and just use some higher mixtures, as we nearly lose the rear again. Coming out of that right hand corner, the rear was going a little bit unstable, and this is why I decided to do this stint like this and then change tyres, because a lot of people were obviously going in the pits on lap 4, not changing tyres and just using the fuel up, and also change it and doing it the same thing on lap 5, not putting new tyres on. So for me it was best just let the fuel run down, and then we'll put a new fresh set of tyres on, which won't gain us a massive amount of time. It probably might have been faster to maybe not change the tyres and pick up slipstream cars ahead, but I decided personally I'm just going to go for the strategy of putting the fuel in, giving myself a better car, and even if we drop down a bit, if we've got a better car through the corners, we should be able to get back past some cars. We're at the moment we're in P1 obviously, but people like Rick have obviously pitted, and we've got cars that will jump us massively. We're going to come out the pits a lot further back than this, and then we're going to have to do the work again to get ourselves back up for them top 5 positions. Now as we come through to the final corner, you see very close behind me there a lot of cars battling. You can see in the bottom right hand corner in the replay camera, there's a group of cars just behind myself and SVDR, about 3 or 4 cars battling, and that's why I didn't really want to be involved with that, because it's so risky. Yeah, it can work out in terms of saving fuel, but it can also punish you if you pick up a penalty. If you go into the pits, I had quite a lot less fuel. You can see there 24 compared to some others on 42 Calcium going in. So that's the advantage of doing that strategy, keeping on a much shorter pit stop than myself. It does gain you a lot of time in the pits, but it is running the risk as well. So it's just whether you want to play it safe like I did and just get yourself in clean air, or run the risk of battling away but also picking up massive slipstreams and being able to fuel save. As we come out now in P10, or goes past us, he pitted a lap early, so we're not in too bad of a situation here now, because we're in the slipstream with the car in front, and also that car's going to pick up all the slipstream. So we're going to be all bunching back up together, and I'm in a good range. I'm within the slipstream range of the cars in front. We've got fresh tyres, we've got Tidney behind us. We've got good fuel now to the end. That's the advantage I was in. I put quite a reasonable amount of fuel in, so I could push quite aggressively in one mixture. I didn't really need to worry about fuel saving. And so far this strategy looks okay, because we're in a situation with 4 or 5 cars in front of us. Everyone's within slipstream range of each other. My car's going to be really strong through the corners with them fresh set of tyres on, and we might be able to do something still in this race, as we're now sitting behind the cars in front. You can see I'm not really having to worry too much about fuel, like running the mixtures on a higher setting as Manuel Rodriguez. I don't know what happened there, whether he not pitted yet and he was just letting cars pass. Maybe he was having a little bit of a disaster. As Elegna there on the right hand side defending that line. I don't think Alexoni would have gone for that move anyway. It would have been very risky at that part of the track. And one thing about this view that we use, which I was noticing throughout the racing, was when you're very close to a car in front like that, it became really difficult to see the corners, especially on some of the blind corners that you have to throw the car in. You cannot see where you're aiming the car, so it was really tricky to pick your turning in points. As we now head on to the end of another lap, as you see the battling away in front of us, the Golf goes down the right side. I decided to stay on this left hand side. There's no point trying to make an overtake. It's better for me to be in the situation of picking up a slipstream rather than putting myself out in the lead on the start straight, because my car obviously not the worst car down the straight, but not particularly the fastest during the acceleration phase. So now we're back in that Vantage's slipstream, and the Vantage seemed to struggle a little bit when it was in the top gear. I don't know if it's the aerodynamics of the car, but it didn't seem to have the go that the NSX had. We've got Matty behind us there in the Ford GT, one of the faster cars, bump drafting myself down the straight, giving me a massive boost, and this is giving me the slipstream now as we're picking up Alegna's slipstream. And look at the difference. Alegna must be fuel saving or something there, because he's just sitting in Alexoni's slipstream. But now that's going to give me the advantage of getting myself up into P7, and Matty gives me another nice boost there, so pushing me on by, and I'm going to give him the slipstream there as we go into the braking, and then Matty gets himself up into P8, and I'm now into P7 with a group of cars ahead. You can see there a nice group of cars with we're pretty much going to be battling for, there's a possibility of battling for P2 in a minute, as 4 cars almost side by side there battling away. And again, this again is why I didn't really want to risk being in that kind of situation, because you see the side-on contact that just happened there and the cars being pushed into the wall. I think Jonas actually picked up a 5-second penalty during that, and that shows you why it can be risky. I think Jonas possibly either no stopping or didn't change his tyres. I'm not too sure exactly how he actually got into P6. I don't know if he's not pitted at that stage. I'm not aware. As we now go through the fast right-hand corner behind, I think it is Bellin in front of us in the other Dodge Viper, obviously on a different strategy to Jonas. I think he's on a pit stop strategy. And we're going to be able to pick up the slipstream now. This is the great thing, because we've got the fuel, I can get into that slipstream and try and get myself a nice draft down the straight, because we're in a perfect situation. And now this was a risky thing. Do I go for it on this lap? So the start of this lap down the main straight, do I go for it and use up my fuel and then try and go for a really aggressive lap through the through the corners and try and break a slipstream, as we let Matty go through us there? Now that was tactical. I wanted to let Matty go so I can pick up a really good slipstream and also get a good exit off that corner. You see there, picking up a really nice exit on the power nice, and now we're in the perfect slipstream range. We've got 3 or 4 cars right in front of us, and we're picking up the perfect distance to pick up a very strong slipstream. As you see now, building that slipstream up down straight. Matty's going to be building it up massively as well in that Ford GT, pretty much the fastest car in a straight line, and he's got slipstream. So I'm going to go to the left hand side. It looks like ERT Bellin, it looked like his wheel might have disconnected or something during that stage. I'm not too sure what actually happened, but his car just switches over to the right hand side and lets a few cars through. It looks like he's maybe had a calibration problem on his wheel, as now Matty goes for a move right in between, nearly contact with Morgan, pushes him into the wall. I go down the left hand side, 3 cars just before the end of the straight. We're going to go around the outside of Kalster, braking extremely late, giving Kalster the space. Kalster out brakes himself a bit, pushes into the side of me, but I'm just about managed to hold on to that, and a great move to put myself up into P3 now, as we can just see tantalisingly close P2. If I could get myself in that slipstream, we might be in with a chance here. I've got the fuel to burn, so I decided to use a lot of my fuel up on this lap and really drive aggressive to see if I could get in the slipstream of P2 and break the slipstream from Kalster. So what you're going to see here now is really aggressive driving through this section now, into there, aggressive on the front, 134, 135 miles per hour carrying the speed through there. That was really nicely done, and you can see in the mirror we've actually pulled a nice gap about 5-6 tenths away from Kalster in that Lamborghini. So you can just see by the car's behaviour through these corners, I am pushing and trying to break that slipstream. You can see it's around 6-7 tenths of a second at this stage, and into this long fast right hand corner, and then aggressively onto the throttle to try and bring out a little short shift here to stop the car running wide. But unfortunately the Lamborghini was about 6 tenths, 7 tenths behind us, and that meant he's back in the slipstream and he's going to gain it now. So kind of what I wanted to do at that stage was pick up the slipstream of the car in front of us, and we only managed to get to about 1.1 seconds away, which was a real shame, because if I could have just picked up the slipstream of that car and dragged myself down this straight, we could have been in for a really good result, maybe a P2 by the time we get to the finishing line. But at the moment you can see I just can't pick up that slipstream. So now what's going to happen is, because I've used a lot of fuel up there, I've got to go back into the short shifting, and we've got 1 lap to go, and I'm going to get absolutely swamped by these cars. It was a risk that I wanted to take. It could have paid off, if they would have started battling behind. If I would have picked up the slipstream of P2, it might have worked. But now in this stage you're going to see I'm going to get absolutely swamped down the straight. You can see pushing past, or goes through, Kalster goes past, Matty goes through, and then I saw another car about to go through. I decided to cut in there, pick up the slipstream, and see if I can get close enough to make a move by the end of the straight, but not able to do that, you can see. So again, I had to do some fuel saving now, so what I decided to do was try and do some short shifting, just so that I might be able to push towards the end of the lap and maybe pick up 1 more place in the slipstream as we go through the right-hander. Very close racing between a lot of drivers, really respectful so far in this race. There's not really been any dirty driving. There was the little incident with Indy Food where he dived into that corner, but luckily we avoided that one. But everything else has been pretty much 100% respectful. Nothing aggressive that I've seen that's caused any penalties. I think there was a little thing with Jonas with cars in front, but I don't know if that was more caused by different strategies being run in the race now. As at the moment you can see, just making sure I stay in Kalster's slipstream at this point, I can't push 100% because I've got to make sure my fuel's going to last. We got extremely low on the fuel now because I really drove that lap aggressive to try and get into P2 slipstream. It could have worked, and it could have really worked out for me. You know, it was 3 or 4 attempts away from being in the slipstream range, and possibly now battling for P2 and maybe being ahead of P2. So it didn't quite work out, but it was a risk worth taking, I felt. It was a safe option in a way, because you weren't battling with other cars as we go into the final corner. Very close racing. I decided to try and give myself a good solid exit from that corner. Obviously the NSX, not the greatest car in terms of straight line speed, but they've all got slipstreams in front as well. I've got the slipstream, so it's going to be fairly equal. Kelsey's got a little bit of an advantage in the Lamborghini, slightly faster car, especially in top end as we now go down straight, and I was really running low on fuel at this point, so I had to start short shifting. I had to go into a different mixture and just pretty much settle for a P6 as we run out of fuel just before the finishing line and take a P6. So not the worst result, a reasonable result in the end. It could have been so much better. It could have been a P2 if we would have just picked that slipstream up. So it was really one of them where you're happy, but you really saw what was possible. You see 2,200 points. Still in P2 in the manufacturers, even though none of the drivers around me are in top split. These drivers are in second and third split, picking up 2,000k points for their races, which is really frustrating because I really don't believe that, I say this every single race pretty much, that a P6 in top split should be worth more than any points in split 3. Pretty much any points in split 2 as well. I don't believe anyone in split 2 should score more than top split P6 or top split top 10. I don't think that should be a thing, but let's hope they're going to do something about this situation at the moment, because surely they're going to be able to see that, you know, the lower ranked drivers are picking up more points by their tables and being able to see their drive rating. I'll be interested to see whether something changes in the update for the official season, because this is obviously just a pre-season. It doesn't actually mean much in the manufacturer. The proper official season will be the season that counts. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that video. Picked up reasonable points, 2.2k points. We're going to be back with more live streams and videos soon. Thanks again for watching, everyone.